how did we meet? Do you believe in serendipity? My parents decided to buy a house in 2009, and they wanted to get on the east side of town, get a little bit closer to both my sisters. And unbeknownst to me, my dad was actually being courted by some real estate agents, but when the time came to actually pull the trigger and start looking, my sister Terry said, Matt Dunchie, her next door neighbor, is a real estate agent. Let's just get him working on finding a house over there. So we started off with that, saw a couple of them, wrote offers, and got beat out by cash, like right out of the gate. And it wasn't a week that all of a sudden he's sending over like 1 or 2 houses a week. And I'm asking him about it, and he said, there's just not a lot out there right now in your parents' price range, which was $175,000 to like $205,000. And I'm thinking, I don't know anything about real estate, but this is the worst real estate market in the history of man, and Arizona is the worst in the nation. How is it possible that there are only a couple of houses a week? So I finally get frustrated and say, we're pulling the trigger, we're going to do something else. And my sister Terry again says, well, you know what, why don't I call the gal that sold us our house? And I'm thinking, why didn't you call her in the first place?
So I get a call in the summer of 2009 from a past client of mine, and she says, my parents are looking to buy a house, and here's the deal. My mom's kind of busy and won't have time to go preview with us, and my dad's going through chemotherapy. So I'm wondering, how about you and I go look at houses? If they pass the first round, then we'll bring mom out to see him, and if they pass after that, we'll bring dad out to see him.
We've got a new plan. We're excited. We're going to get mom and dad a house.
So on day 3 of this plan, we come across a house that we want mom to see, and then she says, yeah, I think I do want my husband to see this. My husband is at chemotherapy with my son Jim, and they could meet you late in the afternoon out at the house. So I'm like, fine, whatever. I'm running like crazy at this point in the market. Literally, I have 4 very busy, very active buyers. I have written, and even for Jim's parents, we ended up writing like 13 offers. So I've got 4 buyers that are here, 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 here. I'm driving everywhere, and I am exhausted. And by the end of this day, I'm thinking, I got one more house to show, and my day is done.
We pull up at the house. We actually pull in the driveway. I see across the street there's this cute little green emerald Jaguar. I'm like, that's got to be the real estate agent. I get out, walk around the car to let my dad out and help him because, like I said, he was going through chemo in a little week, and it's a million degrees outside. And she opens the door, and I see, it's obviously she parked quite a ways across the street. And I look and I see this gal get out with these pretty little sunglasses, fierce haircut, and a slender figure. And I'm like,
I believe you can get me through the night. So at the appointed hour, I'm at the house waiting for my client to arrive, and a few minutes later they do. We get out of the car, we do our greetings and say hello to everybody, and I meet Mr. Kommers and his handsome, the chauffeur at that point. He's just the chauffeur.
Right out of the gate, it was pretty obvious that she found me attractive. I mean, she had a big smile on her face when she introduced herself. I caught her kind of checking me out of the corner of her eye. It was obvious there was something going on.
So we go through the house, and I'm doing my usual thing. Don't miss out on these kitchen cabinets. Aren't they beautiful? Don't you love cooking with gas? Isn't that wonderful? Lots of counter space for cooking. I love to cook. And his son, Mr. Kommers' son, just keeps saying, oh, do you have this app on your phone? This is the clearinghouse for Bon Appetit magazine. Oh, do you have this? I like to cook with gas, too. And I'm going, I'm trying to sell a house here, dude. I'm really not in the mood for a flirt.
I'm completely full of crap on that. She was having none of it. I was throwing the kitchen sink at this girl. I'm talking about recipes. I'm talking about cooking with gas versus electric. I'm asking her where she grew up. And I mean, it was all she could do to be professionally disinterested.
Really? I just want to get through this showing and get away from this guy.
So honestly, everything that I tried wasn't flying, and that probably would have been the end of it. I mean, I noticed she didn't have a ring, but she still was just having none of it. So at one point, she made the fatal mistake. The only thing that she let get through was she made a comment about cooking for one.
I was very certain that I had left there, making it very clear that I was uninterested and unavailable.
So we're driving out of the neighborhood, literally following her out to get back onto the highway. And I asked my dad what he thought about the house, and I don't even remember what he said, honestly. And I said, what do you think about her? And he goes, she's pretty. And I go, I'm going to get her. And he goes, I bet you will.
Finally, I've escaped. My day is done.
Look, I'm a sales guy. I win. All I need to do is engage this girl, get her talking, and I'm going to win her over.
Questions, questions. Really?
So, I've never bought a house before. I've lived in apartments all over the country. And I had no bloody idea what to ask about real estate, whatever. I was kind of running front end on this because my mom, was busy, and my dad, going through chemo. So, I kept trying to come up with questions, and I'd never really texted much before this. So I would seriously do some research on the internet. I'd come up with this, what I thought was a great question, and I'd type it out. It took me forever to type it out in a text, and I'm waiting for a response, and then she sends me one back and says yes or no. I'm like, crap, quit asking closed-ended questions.
Then he asked me things like, what's the difference between a general warranty deed and a special warranty deed? I don't know. I can't remember. I had to go back to my real estate school books and look it up so I could answer intelligently. I'm like, enough already.
The questions finally got smart enough on me that she had to actually call. We got in this kind of routine where she'd get done with her day and call me up and go through all my stuff. And of course I made sure I had several other questions to ask when she called me about the one that I had texted her. These conversations kind of slowly, eventually, turned into more personal stuff, talking about where we lived, past relationships, what we did before, these things in our lives. It was fun.
So at some point over the months and weeks of having conversations and so forth, I start realizing I really like this guy. I remember where I was sitting on my patio one night. I was drinking a glass of wine after I've had some dinner, and I went, I really like this guy. What am I going to do with that? I don't have time. I don't need a boyfriend. I don't need anything, but I really like this guy.
So we've been talking on the phone every night for weeks. And she'd made it abundantly clear that she would never date anybody that she was doing a transaction with. We hadn't closed on the house yet. I'm seeing no movement whatsoever from this gal. That, other than we're talking and whatever, but, as far as I was concerned, I was firmly ensconced in the friend zone, and that was about all there was to it.
So at some point when I've told all my girlfriends about this really great guy I've met, and I really don't want to have a boyfriend, but gosh, I really do like him, they're like, has he asked you out yet? Has he asked you out yet? I'm like, no, he hasn't. And they're like, when is he going to ask you out? I'm like, I don't know when he's going to ask me out.
So one day, a Friday rolls around, and I just text her, hope you're having a good day. Saturday rolls around, same thing. Don't hear a word one back from her, which was kind of very unusual at that point. So Sunday rolls around, I get a text that says, I'm sorry, I was really busy, didn't get back with you, don't take it personally. And I'm like, okay, that's not good. In my world, somebody says don't take it personally, you take it personally.
So finally one weekend, I actually had a day off, I went, well, maybe I'll call Jim and see if he wants to meet me for a cup of coffee.
So a little bit later, I get another text that says, I'm in your neighborhood, would you like to meet for a cup of coffee? And I'm like, oh, this is not good. So I figured she's kicking me to the curb, saying, I can't do this, I don't have time for this, whatever. So I thought, if I'm getting dumped, which I've never been dumped, well, I guess maybe I have. But if I'm getting dumped again, it's going to be over a drink. I'm not doing it over coffee. So she said, okay, I'll meet you for a drink. So we agree on Carrabba's. I pull into the parking lot. She's already there. I get out of the car, kind of trying to steel myself to be a tough guy and not, show too much emotion. And she gets out of her car, walks over and gives me a hug. Like, okay, now I don't know what the hell's going on.
So I met him for a drink on a Sunday afternoon. I had no idea that this would be the drink that would change my life.
So we've been dating for about 5 months, and she invites me to go to Mexico. And I was a little reluctant because it's Mexico, but she was telling me it's a beautiful condo. Long story short, we're there for probably 3 days, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Had a great time. Literally never left the resort except one time to get some food. And we come back. It was about, I don't know, 5.5 hours each way. And we get back, and everybody's asking about how the trip was, and I'm like, oh my God, the place was beautiful, and it was so much fun, and blah blah blah. And I think it was my sister said, yeah, but how did you guys get along? And it kind of took me aback for a second, and it dawned on me that's the longest we'd been together. First time we'd been together overnight at a destination, and it was just so easy. It never occurred to me to be concerned about it. There wasn't a single moment that I was uncomfortable or bored or anything like that. It was just easy.
Clearly, this isn't the first rodeo for either one of us. But one of the things that I started to notice early on about us and the dynamic of us is there wasn't this silly one-upping going on. I remember one of the first times I suggested that we cook together, because I love to cook, he loves to cook. You remember the story of how he's trying to pick up on me in the very first kitchen he and I have ever stood in together while I'm showing the house to his dad. But I came up with a recipe that I wanted to try, and he came into the kitchen. He's like, what do you want me to do, Chief? What do you want me to do? And our entire lives of cooking together, we now call that, one's the chef and one's the kitchen bitch. One of us runs the kitchen and says, here's what we should cook, and I'm going to do this and lead with this, and you need to do this, and you need to... And it was just one of those times where it was like, there was never this, well, I don't want to be doing this, or I don't want to be doing that. And I'd turn around and the garbage can was emptied. I'd turn around and the pots and the pans that were in the sink were washed. I would turn around and he's going, what do you want to listen to next? And it just, in those moments where people can sometimes get a little, territorial about stuff, we just don't. We just don't. And the house projects that we do, and the getting ready for camping or getting ready to go on vacation or to-do lists or anything like that, we just make the list and we knock it out together. It's not, this is your job, that's my job. It's just the list needs to get done. And we love doing the list together because we're just enjoying this companionable silence, and we get stuff done and have a great time.
Everybody that knows me knows I'm a hopeless romantic. It's pretty pathetic. And, I talk to a lot of couples that have been together, married, whatever, and I always ask them, how'd you figure it out? Especially all the years that I spent being single. How do you know that that was the one? And most of them have this story about this transitory moment where they were someplace and somebody did something and they looked into each other's eyes and went, holy crap, this is the one. And, my whole life I've been waiting for a moment like that. And what's interesting is, with Caryn, there's not one moment like that I can point to. I don't even remember the first time I told her I loved her, but I was the first one that said it. But I don't remember where I was. I don't remember when it was. And I don't remember waking up one time going, I don't want to lose this woman. I want to spend the rest of my life with her. It just seems like it's always been like that. It's very difficult for me to explain, because at one point I recognized that I had a hard time remembering what my life was like without her in it. And that's kind of a neat thing.
I don't know the day that I knew that he was the one. I just remember that I was being guarded with my heart and thinking, okay, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to get into something I shouldn't. And then I kept running the relationship and the time together over checklists going, yeah, that works and that's working. And like I had no complaints. And I decided it was God who had brought us together, and I needed to just trust that. And at some point, I truly was falling in love with him. And he's pretty proud of himself that he's the one who said, I love you first. And I'm okay with that.
One of the things that just jumped out at me right out of the gate was how much I just seriously enjoyed her company. You have a whole select group of friends, people that you like to go out and have a beer with, or you like to go golfing with, or somebody that you call up to do a project with, or whatever. there's literally, short of bringing my dad back to life and having one more drink with him or one more talk, there's literally nothing that I'd rather do with somebody else than with her. I mean, she's the first thing that pops into my mind, no matter what's come across my desk or my life. And not a day goes by that I don't wake up surprised that this is my life. After everything I've been through, all the places that I've traveled, all the failed relationships, I'm so blessed that this is my life.
By the time we've gotten married, it's 6 years we've been together. And 6 years of life brings you a lot of ups and it brings you a lot of downs. We've lost precious, precious people in our life. And what I have loved around every one of those events as I've thought back is the absolute, unwavering support that he and I have provided for each other. There's no finger pointing. There's no you could do this, you could do that, I should be that, whatever. It's we are going to get through this together. And then I think about some of the fabulous places we've been. I remember a night, our last night in Spain. Our traveling companions went to bed early because we were leaving early. And he said, "Madame, can I buy you a drink?" And we sat down at this adorable little table in the plaza where we could see the lights on the cathedral, the biggest cathedral in Europe. And we just sat there and took it all in and remembered the highlights of our trip. And I remembered thinking this was going to be the first of many, many European trips we've gone on, that we'll go to, places we'll be. And as I think back on simple Sunday night dinners on our patio, or a happy hour in our pool in the middle of July, or there's never a lack of conversation. There's never a lack of respect. There's never, ever anything besides, I am in the best place of my life, and I want to make every day of you, my love, every day that you live, I want to be the best possible for you. And I feel that every moment coming from him. And I wake up every morning going, is this my life? This is my life. And we've been through it, and it's still good every day. So we have a lot of conversation, and we decide we're going to get married. And so I go naturally into planning mode. We've talked about venues, we've talked about cakes, we've talked about rings, we've talked about dresses. Well, maybe he didn't talk about it as much as I think he did.
So 5 years into this, we decide absolutely we're going to get married. And next thing I know, I get a piece of paper on a sticky note saying, call my friend Brenda about my ring. And I'm like, wait a minute, don't I have a part to play in this? And she's like, well, honey, that's how I make sure I get what I want. So Caryn.
But we had a venue and we had a date, and I was thinking, gosh, I better get a dress. And I'd already been researching what I wanted my ring to look like and all that, and then I realized, my God, he hasn't even asked the question yet.
So I call up Brenda and I say, okay, what's the deal? And she goes through the whole thing, and I said, my problem with this is I wanted to ask the question and have it be a surprise, and there's no way in heck I'm going to be able to surprise her because she knows exactly what it's going to look like and when it's going to happen. And so Brenda came up with a brilliant idea to make a smaller ring, and then I could surprise her with the question, and then give it back, and she'll make the ring that she wants for the wedding. So on our trip to our dear friend Rick and Casey's wedding, I decide this is going to be perfect. We're going to Carmel after the wedding's over, and we're going to stay a couple extra days.
So it's our last day in Carmel, and we had decided earlier in the weekend that that was the day we were going to walk down to the beach, and we were going to watch a sunset in its entirety from start to finish. And so late in the afternoon, he's said, let's grab a flask of whiskey, let's grab a towel to sit on, and let's walk to the beach. He's so calm and cool, like I have no idea this is anything other than a simple walk on the beach.
I got the ring. we go down to the beach because I said, let's go down and like watch the sunset because I've never actually done that before. And we go down there, we're sitting up against the wall, and no sunset. The day before was beautiful.
So we're sitting on the beach. It's a beautiful evening, but there is absolutely no sunset. Like the clouds are so low, there's this tiny little strip of light between the ocean and the clouds. There's no sunset. There's going to be no sunset. But there's lots of activity on the beach.
I start kind of talking about our relationship and how my life's gone, and I'm building up a crescendo. And every single time I get to a critical point, she goes, "Oh my God, look at that Rottweiler running in the surf." And I'm like, yeah.
There's dogs playing in the surf. There's lovers walking along, and he's talking, and I'm listening, and...
Anyway, and I get back in, and, "Oh, isn't that a Robber Reimer or something?" And I'm like, yeah.
We've had these conversations before, how wonderful our life is, how much we love one another, and, you know, what do we have dreams for the future, and I just think it's an ordinary day on the beach without a sunset.
So I stand up, and I'm getting in front of her, and she's still doing it. She's just like really enjoying the moment. And I finally had to get emotional before she looks at me and starts paying attention to what I said.
And then all of a sudden, he's crying. But he always cries. Everybody knows that, right? He's such a soft heart. Of course he's getting tears in his eyes. But at this point I'm thinking, well, maybe I should pay a little better attention.
And then I hit a knee and threw up a ring. And her eyes went that big.
And then the next thing I know, he's on his knee in the sand with a diamond saying, "Will you marry me?" I'm like so completely shocked. I had no idea. And now I'm feeling dumb about the Reimer-Reiners and the retrievers in the surf. What was I thinking? I was missing a great moment. After lots of conversation, lots of planning, lots of changes, from one fateful strip of sand in Carmel, California, to another fateful strip of sand in St. Lucia, it's on.
Oh, it's so on.
Come away with me in the night. Come away with me and I will write you a song. Come away with me on a bus. Come away where they can't tempt us with their lies. I wanna walk with.
Love is one of the strongest emotions, yet it cannot survive without an atmosphere of mutual respect and trust. I'm going to read a poem now called The Art of Marriage by Wilfred Peterson. Happiness in marriage is not something that just happens. A good marriage must be created. In the art of marriage, the little things are the big things. It is never being too old to hold hands. It is remembering to say I love you at least once a day. It is never going to sleep angry. It is at no time taking the other for granted. The courtship should not end with the honeymoon. It should continue through all the years. It is having a mutual sense of values and common objectives. It is standing together, facing the world. It is forming a circle of love that gathers in the whole family. It is doing things for each other, not in the attitude of duty or sacrifice, but in the spirit of joy. It is speaking words of appreciation and demonstrating gratitude in thoughtful ways. It is not expecting the husband to wear a halo or for the wife to have the wings of an angel, because it is not looking for perfection in each other. But rather, it is cultivating flexibility, patience, understanding, and a sense of humor. It is giving each other an atmosphere in which each can grow. It is finding room for the things of the spirit. And in my humble opinion, spirituality is everywhere. And this is a pretty spiritual experience.
Absolutely.
It is a common search for the good and the beautiful. And my favorite line of it all, it is establishing a relationship in which the independence is equal Dependence is mutual and the obligation is reciprocal. And finally, it is not only marrying the right partner, but it is being the right partner. Caryn and James, have you come here freely and without reservation to give yourselves to each other in marriage?
We have.
I have.
And will you love and honor each other as long as you both shall live?
I will.
I will.
And do you solemnly declare that there is no legal impediment to this marriage?
I do.
I do.
Love is always patient and kind. It is never jealous or conceited. It is never rude or selfish. It does not take offense. It is not resentful. Love takes no pleasure in other people's sins, but always delights in the truth. It is always ready to excuse, to trust, to hope, and to endure whatever comes. True love never comes to an end. Do you, James, take Caryn to be your wife? Do you promise to love and respect her, to honor and protect her through the good and the bad and through all of life's surprises?
I do.
Do you, Caryn, take James to be your husband? Do you promise to love and respect him, to honor and protect him through the good and the bad and through all of life's surprises?
I do.
So, I understand that you have a ring exchange that
Yes.
you'd like to see.
Yes. Soulmate is a word that gets thrown around a lot. But you are my soulmate. I spent most of my adult life begging God to bring me a woman that I wanted, that I thought I wanted. And after a long time, I gave up. And then about 6.5 years ago, I prayed to God and I asked him to bring me a woman that he thought I needed. And he brought me you. He brought me you. I can't promise you that I'll love you for the rest of your life, but I will promise you I'll love you for the rest of mine.
I love you. I have to put the ring on now.
I put it on. You need to lick that.
What?
Do we need to lick that? Should you? Your fingers slow?
That'll work. That's awesome. Where's Vanilla?
She's there.
I want you to know, every time you look at this, every time, I want you to know that I have given you my mind, my soul, and my body. And I want you to know that for the first time in my life, I have an absolute worthy adversary to whom I am willing and feel safe, yield, and surrender. And I will love you every day of my life. I will be here. I love the words of that poem earlier, where it just speaks to us. Nothing is taken for granted. A spirit of free is what we give to each other. And I want you to know that I appreciate so much that you show up every day as an amazing man to be in relationship with. And it is my promise to you that I will show up every day to be the woman you are worthy of.
Sorry.
Marriage is a commitment to love and life, to the best that two people can bring out in one another. It is a foundation for sharing and growth, a joining that is promised for a lifetime. Within the circle of its love, marriage encompasses all of life's most important relationships. A wife and a husband are each other's best friend, confidant, lover, teacher, listener, and critic. Marriage deepens and enriches every facet of life. Happiness is fuller, memories are fresher, commitment is stronger. Marriage understands and forgives the mistakes life is unable to avoid. It encourages and nurtures new life, new experiences, and new ways of expressing love through the seasons of life. When two people pledge to love and care for each other in marriage, they create a spirit unique to themselves, which binds them closer than any spoken or written words. Marriage is a promise, a fulfillment, made in the hearts of two people deeply in love, cherishing a lifetime together. The vows you have just made to each other are an everlasting solemn pledge of the love you share and symbolize the unbroken perpetuity of your commitment to one another.
Agreed.
So now, for as much as James and Caryn have made their vows of marriage, and by the power vested in me as a marriage officer in the state of St Lucia, I now pronounce you to be husband and wife.
I love you. I hold in my hand the marriage certificate. It is my pleasure to introduce to you for the very first time Mr. and Mrs. James and Caryn Kommers. Congratulations.
There's no combination of words I could put on the back of a postcard. No song that I could sing, but I can try for your heart. And our dreams, and they are made out of real things, like a shoebox of photographs with sepia tone loving. Love is the answer, at least, for most of the questions in my heart. Like, why are we here and where do we go, and how come it's so hard? And it's not always easy, and sometimes life can be deceiving. I'll tell you one thing, it's always better when we're together. It's always better when we're together. Yeah, we'll look at them stars when we're together. Well, it's always better.
To the bride.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you. Long life.
Thank you.
Lots of happiness.
Thank you.
Moments just might find their way into my dreams tonight, but I know that they'll be gone when the morning light sings or brings new things. But tomorrow night you see that they'll be gone too. Too many things I have to do, but if all of these dreams might find their way into my day-to-day scene, I'd be under the impression I was somewhere in between, with only two, just me and you. Not so many things we got to do, or places we got to be. We'll sit beneath the mango tree now. Yeah, it's always better when we're together. We're somewhere in between together. Well, it's always better when we're together. Yeah, it's always better when we're together.
For 1,000 miles, and the heavens open up every time she smiles. And when I come to her, that's just where I belong. Yet I'm running to her like a river song. She give me love, 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 crazy love. gives me love, 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 great love. She's got a fine sense of humor when I'm feeling low down. And when I come to her, when the sun goes down, she takes away my trouble, takes away my grief, takes away all of my heartache in the night like a thief. She give me love, 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 crazy love. She give me love, 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 crazy love. Crazy love. She gives me love, 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 crazy love. Yes, I need her in the daytime. Oh, but I need her in the night. Yes, I wanna throw my arms around her, kiss her hug goodbye. And when I'm returning from so far away, she give me some sweet loving, brighten up my day. Yes, it makes me righteous, it makes me feel whole, and it makes me mellow